This is Laura DeFranco, holistic physical therapist and owner of Brave Healer Productions. I'm excited to bring you my new holistic healing series where you're going to learn from the experts what it means to live fiercely alive, mind, body, and soul. I invite you now to take a breath, relax, and feel the vibe of the words my guest has to share with you today. Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode. I am interviewing the authors of a new book, The Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care, 25 Tools for Happiness. This is a book led by Anna Pereira, the founder of The Wellness Universe, thewellnessuniverse.com. And you guys, I'm so excited. Cannot wait to introduce you to three of our amazing authors today. Hi, ladies. How you doing?
Hi. Yay.
Hi. Awesome to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. I have Lynanne, Montoya, Cottle with me today. Lynanne has attained the greatest accomplishment of her life. She is sexy. Oh my God, I can't believe I get to read this bio first today. This is the best. As a result of childhood sexual trauma, Lynanne felt out of control with strained relationships and an inability to feel. With her podcast, Transformational Retreats and digital course, Lynanne now helps women embrace their powerful femininity. I also have Emma Coller here. She co-owns training and coaching company Growth Pod. Her vision is to build resilient, inclusive, thriving workplaces by developing leaders who know why and how to take care of the well-being of those they serve by teaching them how creating psychologically safe workplaces develop holistic well-being and optimal human flourishing. Lastly, I have Heather Waring. Am I getting your last name pronounced correctly, Heather?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the founder of 1 Million Women Walking, a global community supporting her mission to impact the lives of 1 million women through the simple activity of walking. Using walking, she delivers self-care, coaching, nurturing, and transformation to older women who still have so much life to live. Oh my goodness. If you guys are listening, you're hearing the power in these bios and these amazing women. I can't wait to get to it today. And Lynanne, I'm starting with you, babe. So let's talk about your chapter and a little bit about the pursuit of happiness, like what that has meant to you personally.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and to be here with Heather and Emma. Thank you so much, Laura. Happiness is such a powerful thing, especially when you can live it. And one of the interesting things, I'm going to go backwards a little bit. For me, it seems that if I'm not happy, then there's something wrong with me. But I have to remember that I'm human. And I have to remember that happiness isn't 24/7. There are things that happen, and it's okay if we're not happy. I want to acknowledge the moments and times in our lives when we aren't. And then there is a big problem, though, when there is too much unhappiness, and that is what's ruling our life. And so the pursuit of happiness, to me, is really to empower and champion people to be able to have tools and know how to be happy and to recognize what happiness is for them, because it looks different for everyone. My chapter was something definitely that had to do with healing. That's what Laura had read in my bio, and healing has been a 40-year journey for me after childhood sexual trauma. And I didn't know this until many years later, that singing had been a way for me to release emotions. And I did not know how to feel. I didn't recognize feelings. It was very foreign to me. And when I was in my very first therapy sessions and I had to check in and describe how I was feeling, I did not know how to put words to it. So fast forward 15 years and I'm 50 now. 2 years ago, I realized I had this epiphany that I was sexy, and it was from all these years of therapy and all these other things that helped me to realize that I have more than just living and checking off the lists and raising my family, but I had way more. And my femininity is something that I've fully embraced. And so singing is what my chapter is about, to release trapped emotions. And that is the easiest, in my opinion, the easiest way to reach happiness, because anybody can do it. It costs nothing. You can do it anywhere. You don't have to have any training, any skill, and it works. It's like exercising. So if you don't feel like working out at the gym, you can sing.
I was just about to ask you, so Lynanne, can everyone sing? You know, I grew up and my mom used to always say, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible singer. Well, somebody told her that. And then I thought, oh, I'm the daughter of the terrible singer, so I must also be a terrible, I know, isn't that terrible? So everyone can sing, right? Everybody has the ability to go there. Talk about that for just a minute. I also think everyone's an artist, by the way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, isn't that kind of the story of our lives? We believe the labels.
Yeah.
And what do the labels do? They hinder us. They stop us from growth. They stop us from achieving. And singing is something absolutely anybody can do. If you have vocal cords, you can sing. If you can talk, you can sing. And yeah, absolutely everyone can sing.
I love that. I want people to remember that just like, if you go to the gym to get stronger in your muscles, this is the same with your vocal cords. So there are things in singing that you can get stronger and improve and all of those good things. I did a couple of singing lessons very, very much later in my life because I was terrified up until then to do it. But wanting to stand on a stage with the microphone in my hand, even for spoken word poetry or for speaking, didn't have to be singing, right? I just wanted kind of just to take myself to the next level, and singing felt like next level to me.
Good for you.
Yeah, very, very fun. Highly recommend you guys grab the book and read Lynanne's chapter about singing, whether or not you want to stand on a stage or you just want to go to karaoke one night. Anything is good there. Thank you, Lynanne.
Thank you.
Emma, I'm going to pose the same question to you. So talk to me about the pursuit of happiness, what it's meant to you personally, and a little bit about your amazing chapter.
So again, thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting to be here, and just thinking of Lynanne's chapter is definitely one that I'm going to read, because I also have a false belief that I can't sing, but actually it doesn't stop me from singing, much to my family's horror sometimes. Quite often asked to stop. So yeah, my in terms of my pursuit of happiness, so one of the my chapter, my story is around how what the impact of bullying had on me. So I was bullied through my workplace, but actually that had started some years before. So even bullied in school, and it kind of became a theme that I felt like was almost following me. And a few years ago, I had major brain surgery, which has had a huge impact again in terms of my well-being. So for me, well-being is the key to happiness. So I really kind of feel that happiness is tied into the holistic concept of well-being, and is just one element of that. But again, as Lynanne said, that the balance of that, of understanding that sometimes we can feel happy and sometimes we can't, and that's okay. So I kind of have spent a lot of time thinking about what the meaning is in my life and how to live a more meaning-led life. So I became very interested in positive psychology and looking at the difference of happiness. So finding that there are two different elements of happiness. There's hedonic happiness, which is pursuing instant pleasure and gratification. And then there's eudaimonic happiness, which is, much more meaning-led experiences that fit within our strengths and our values. And so by being more conscious around those different elements of happiness, I've been able to kind of just tailor that for my own life and think more about pursuing those meaningful experiences, looking at ways of being able to add that into my everyday so that I can kind of boost my well-being on a more regular basis and feel good about it and stop spending so much money on shoes, which is the hedonic happiness that I tend to pursue.
Shoes are for sure an instant gratification, aren't they? I could think of several other things as well. And how cool that you helped us discern between two kinds. I think you're the first to do that. So this is, all of these amazing women have written powerful, powerful chapters. Thank you, ladies, for saying yes to the project, but for stepping up with courage and authenticity in your stories, and then going beyond and offering a practical tool, right? So people are not only going to get to know you, but they're going to be taught a beautiful, what I think is all different versions of an awareness tool. There's so many different ways to go at happiness. But Emma, talking about the two different kinds is just one more layer of that awareness that we can take into our practice. We'll talk about awareness in a minute, but is there anything you want to talk about in terms of the two different kinds and how that specifically helps you?
I think awareness is huge, and actually just having that information and that knowledge that there are two different types of happiness, I think, can be really powerful for people, because they're not things that we teach. And you mentioned about going to the gym, just in the same way that someone wants to develop a new physical goal in a gym, they are shown the tools. Someone greets them and says, what do you want to achieve? What's your ideal weight or goal or body, whatever size, whatever that might be, and we show people around the gym and say, this is how you use it and this is how you're going to reach your goal. But we don't teach people that in terms of well-being. So I really like the idea that we take people to the well-being gym and actually we help them to choose the right goal and then show them the tools of how to get there, which is obviously what this book does really, really well. And so just having information or knowledge that there are two different types of happiness actually just empowers people to make different choices and to live a different life in a much more meaningful and mindful way.
Definitely. The well-being gym. There we go, right? I think we all need to be the founders of that. Thank you, Emma. Heather, let's move to you for this same question. What's this happiness journey meant to you personally? And tell us about your amazing chapter.
Lovely. I'd love to. And quite the thing to follow these two amazing women. I was just thinking, when you were asking the question, and, happiness, I think for some of us is one of those things that when we don't really think about too much until we don't have it, or until we're aware that we don't have it. And that definitely happened to me. And my chapter tells my story about burning out. And of course, I didn't realize I was burning out at the time. So the years building up to that burnout were years that I now call my wilderness years, because I really felt I was lost in the wilderness. And yes, there were times that everything seemed lovely and happy and fine, but there were lots of really dark hours too. And, building on what Lynanne was saying, we do have times in our lives when we're happy, and we have other times when we don't. And that is normal. But there is, when the balance goes off, and there's lots of times when you're not happy and you're maybe sobbing in the middle of the night and you just feel so helpless. So it was walking, which is what I'm passionate about, that helped me literally walk back into happiness. And that is something that is really a very simple thing to do. And it's so underrated. And it's I think I would go further to say that it's not, for me, it's not just about walking per se. It's about where you walk and what you see. And for me, a lot of happiness, what makes me happy, what makes me grateful, and many of us and many of the authors, I'm sure, and many of your readers too, will have used kind of gratitude journals, I'm sure. And what I find fascinating is when you look back over the things you're grateful for, the things you're happy about, it's often many of the very simple things in life. So I say that because I want people to realize that happiness is not necessarily that kind of some light that's way on the horizon. It's something that actually we can achieve in a way that's much simpler than we sometimes feel. And I was doing some work with my clients just sort of at the end of last year, given the situation worldwide we find ourselves in, and talking about what is it that brings you joy? What is it that brings you happiness? Because if you look, you can really find that. And I think that's the thing that's really important. And I was fascinated. I didn't realize there were two different kinds of happiness. So thank you for drawing that out, Emma. And of course, the hedonistic happiness. I'm a bit of a shoes girl as well. And I also, I like the odd glass of fizz or champagne. And, somebody wants to take me to a nice spa place. That's very nice too.
Dark chocolate, anyone? Dark chocolate?
Oh, yeah, dark chocolate. But those are the treats, aren't they? Often
Right.
the treats. But it's something like curling up on the sofa on a winter's evening and having a candle burning or the fire burning that actually makes me happy.
Nice, beautiful. Gratitude is such an easy entry point into it. I think that's probably come up in all of our interviews, and so simple. And it's a matter of awareness. And so, Heather, I'm going to stick with you for this next question, and that I want all of you to answer. Awareness is really important. How important do you think it is when it comes to happiness, and how do you practice?
Ooh, I think awareness is just key for anything. If you want to make a change, if you want to bring about change, you've got to be aware first of what it is you want to change, and then often aware of one thing is being aware of the change you want to make, but then to go a little deeper, it's all the different aspects perhaps of that change. And it's only when you have that awareness that you can actually start to make the changes, because then you know where you are, and then you can start to look at where you want to go. So I would say it's absolutely key. For me, I am a big daily walking fan. And it doesn't matter how short that walk is. Sometimes if I'm very office based, it might be 15, 20 minutes out the front door, round the block and back again. My passion is long distance walking. So that's when I'm in my absolute element, when I've got the rucksack on and the hiking boots and the poles, and I'm somewhere wonderful in wonderful scenery. But that is actually what probably keeps me grounded. It's what led me back into happiness, and it's what every day I use to really keep me on track. It's my kind of measurement tool. And the other thing I use is journaling. So I will often, I think it was you that said at the beginning, Laura, that you often journal. And I will often sit and just write my thoughts down and let my thoughts flow. And both work really well for setting me up for the day ahead. And if I start my day in that way, everything else seems to flow.
I love that. And you mentioned something about knowing what you want first, right? The foundational awareness to first realize you're feeling whatever that feeling is. And we call it unhappy. We call it a lot of things. Just recognizing yourself in the moment of the feeling, and then getting some clarity about really what you want. And then, your moment to moment awareness in that, being able to move toward that feeling. And really with awareness, you get the choice. We get choices. We have some freedom in choosing when we practice that way. So I love your walking as one of your ways to personally practice. And then, yes, oh my goodness, of course, journaling for sure. Don't get me started, you guys. I'll talk about journaling all day long. Thank you, Heather. So Emma, let me move that awareness question to you now. How important is awareness to this happiness journey, and how do you practice?
So my chapter is about reframing, which is very much an awareness tool. So there are three elements for me in terms of reframing. So the first one is reflection. So reflection in its own right is about developing the sense of awareness and being able to really tune into your emotions and thoughts. Because I think we live in a world that's it deliberately distracts us from hearing our own voice. So actually being able to tune back in through whatever reflection practice suits you, whether that's walking or mindfulness or singing, meditation, journaling, whatever that is for you, then I think that's just a great way of reflecting and bringing that awareness in a more conscious way. The second element to reframing is to change the language. So we start by reflecting, and then we reframe. So the way that I look at that is by naming something. So we have to start by naming it. If we don't understand it and we can't give it a name, then it's very difficult for us to change that. So we start by naming it. And again, I think in terms of our awareness, being actually able to name something is really, really valuable, whether that's naming, an emotion or a situation. And sometimes when I'm working with people that struggle to even name emotions, we just give them a colour. So we might even start with a colour. So even just being able to give that a colour to start off with. And when we can name it, we can then start to flip that around and to start to reframe the language or the feeling that we might have, which in turn is the third element, which is about rewiring. So actually thinking about how do we rewire our brain on a more permanent basis so that we can think differently and see things differently, see our lens differently. So awareness for me is a huge, I think it's so powerful in terms of thinking about happiness and well-being. And without that awareness, I think it's very difficult for us to change things, which, my chapter that's exactly what it is. It's about saying, we need to be aware, we need to reflect, we need to reframe, and then we need to rewire.
The topic of retraining the brain is fascinating, and there's a lot out there about it. And it's really quite amazing what you can do. If you're making me think of the lifetime's worth of training we have had already. And that's what gets so sticky with this, right? Is that we've had so much training, and we really do have to kind of wake up in this moment and realize how we've been trained to think, believe, and act. And it's one reason I think that your tool is so powerful. Everyone's tools are so powerful in terms of just waking us up to the moment where we have that opportunity to start to do some of the things you mentioned, reflect and reframe. How awesome. Anything else you wanted to say about that?
I think just even thinking about, singing that we've just been talking about, that in itself is just a great way of that awareness of thinking that actually, for whatever reason, we've learned a story that we're not very good at singing. And actually just be able to name that and be aware that that's a thought that we have, and then to reframe that into a different, kind of language that actually, I want to sing. Singing supports me. Singing's a great way of releasing. We can, and the more we do that, I think what's really important, the more conscious and consistent we are with reframing, that's when we start to rewire the brain, which makes it easier for us to think in a new default position to the one that we might have had previously.
Yes, for sure. You're making me think of moments in my car with the windows rolled up and the best singing happens there. And speaking of that, Lynanne, you are next on this one. Let's talk a little bit about awareness and your practice.
Okay, absolutely. Oh my goodness, Heather and Emma, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. I'm learning so much. Just haven't read your chapters yet, and I'm excited to. So it's interesting because with awareness, that is a really great thing to have. However, for somebody like me, for most of my life, I was pretty much just on autopilot because I didn't know who I was. I had so much confusion because of that childhood trauma. And awareness was not even something I was capable of because I was just living. And now that I know who I am, and that is something I teach, I have identity courses because people need to know who they are. They need to know deep in their core what makes them happy, what their direction is, what their purpose is. And when you have that and you know it, then that's when you can have the ability to be aware, because you don't want to deviate from where your direction is taking you, because you know it, you know who you are. The way that I practice it is I have this sheet that I did a long time ago. It was a gauge that allowed me to see when I was in my worst moments and the middle of the road moments, and then the moments in my life that I'm just on cloud nine. And that was such a great exercise for me. And I did it in the therapy session. And it was things, for example, being on the computer too much. I recognized that I get too grumpy, and I lose connection with myself. And then I don't want to connect with anyone else, my children, my husband. I don't want to cook dinner, whatever, all these things. And so just writing it out helped me realize it, helped me see it on paper. And that was one of the biggest experiences, biggest ahas for me, because I could see it and I felt it. And this is all during the same time when I was starting to recognize feelings and putting feelings, giving a name to feelings. And that was something that helped me immensely.
Oh my gosh, there's so much there to talk about. It's just such a juicy topic, right? I think the entire journey toward happiness has to do with knowing who you are. And these all intertwine together. They all go together. And that's a gift you receive when you arrive fully in who you are and why you're here and what you want to do, what you want, what feels good to you, right? Oh my goodness. I love this, you guys. Thank you, Lynanne. It's really, really beautiful way to think about it. And I am thinking about many women that I know who have been through severe trauma and who are making their way on, surviving and to thriving. And that's really, we want to move people from just existing in zombie land,
right,
and to this place where they feel great and they can wake up smiling and feel excited about who they are and who they are being in the world to serve other people as well. What a profound journey. These aren't small potatoes things we're talking about today, you guys, right? This is big stuff. Anything else you want to say about that, Lynanne?
No, I think you capped it all. You put the cherry on top.
All right. Emma, I'm going to move to you and I want everyone to be able to answer this last question, you guys, but Emma, so, people are listening to us today and they get it, they might be nodding their head and they understand the concepts and they're excited and interested to learn, and they're still really struggling. And so I think what I want from you at this point is, what would you offer to somebody who's struggling right now in terms of advice or support, an easy way to enter this journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think people really do need that support and knowledge right now, don't they? More than ever, I think.
Yeah.
I would say my advice would be to really connect and tune into how you're feeling. I think that is really, really valuable right now. And so many people have lost the ability to be able to do that. So I would recommend just stopping at set points throughout your day and really tuning into how you feel and trying to name how you feel at any given time. And I think it's really important to recognize that we have a negativity bias. We tend to think more about the negatives, the things that are not going well in our lives, than we do about the positives. So again, it's about that balance. But until we can name that, we can't balance it out. So it's understanding that, lots of people talk about emotions as being good or bad or positive or negative. But actually, again, just reframing that to understand that they are just human emotions. And every single emotion that we have is there to tell us something. It's there to serve a purpose. And if we can't listen to what that emotion is trying to tell us, then we can't take the appropriate action. But the more we can tune into our emotions and name them, whether they are what we deem to be good or bad, negative or positive emotions. Because of that negativity bias, the more we can recognize when we do feel good, when we do feel happy, when we have those joyful moments in our lives, and we can celebrate those times, that's when we start to rewire our brain to that becomes our default position, to think about those good times just as much as we think about the bad times. So for me, I would say to people right now, just stop at regular points throughout your day, just check in, name the emotion. If you can't name it, give it a color. And then just think about, what is that trying to tell you? What message does that have for you? And lean into it. Don't be afraid of it. And think about what action you're going to take that involves some real self-care. Not being judgmental, but just thinking about inquiring into that emotion with kindness and really tuning into, what do I need to do as a result of it?
Beautiful, Emma. Thank you. Emma, where can everyone find out more about you?
So we have our website for our business, which is growth-pod, and mainly you'll find me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of my work on LinkedIn and writing articles and blogs and things on there as well.
Okay, and for all our viewers, don't worry, we're going to have you hooked up down in those show notes with everybody's site, and you'll be able to find those there. So I'm going to go to you next, Heather. Talk a little bit about what you would offer to somebody who's really struggling right now.
Picking up a lot on what Emma was saying there, and also touching on what Lynanne was saying about identity. I think what we've been through this year, a lot of people's lives have just it's been like it's all been thrown in the air, and their lives have been changed, some hugely, some not so much. But I think there's a lot of people out there really wondering who they are now and what the next stage is. And I like to keep things very simple. So again, for me, I'm in agreement totally with the stop. Just stop. If you find yourself getting overwhelmed, just stop. But go outside. Maybe it's just into your garden, actually, but it might be for a walk. And I would urge people to be curious. Just look around. Take things away from yourself for a moment. And that doesn't mean that you're forgetting about yourself. But what I find is, if you actually move to being in the moment, and it's one of the great things that walking taught me, the mindfulness of it, you can actually, in a sense, buy yourself that lovely place, which is now, where you can actually just focus on what can you see, what's around you, what's up, what's down, what's to the left, what's to the right, and what are they saying to you, what are they meaning to you, what enjoyment, what happiness are you getting. And actually just spending some time in that place is just like a breath of fresh air. It does make you feel so much better. And then practicing doing that just gives you that opportunity to be in the moment more and more, and to really soak up all that is good there. And I just think sometimes we just want something that is very simple to be able to do. And, then we can take that simplicity and we can expand on it.
Yes. Oh my goodness. No doubt on the curiosity. It's an instant mind changer. It's an instant shift. And I love being curious and just, what else is possible here is a question I love to ask myself in terms of getting into the curiosity. So where can everyone find you, Heather?
They can find me. My website is 1 Million Women Walking, but I have an amazing community that is a global community, and it's now over 6,000 women large, and it's called 1 Million Women Walking. It's a group on Facebook, so it's free to join. Do come along and be inspired through photographs and be supported. It's the kindest, most sharing community I have ever been part of.
Beautiful. Thank you. And we're going to have you hooked up with those show notes down below. Everybody who's listening, just roll on down and you'll find these links so that you can find these amazing authors. Lynanne, you're going to be the last to answer this question. What would you offer someone who's really struggling right now?
I think it's definitely what Heather and Emma have said. I applaud them and their wisdom and their experiences. And I would like to add that we need to have grace for ourselves. It's really easy to have expectations and hopes and desires, and many things are out of our control. This past year, we know that. And we have labels that we've believed, labels that may be about an organization or a movement. And those things have nothing to do with us at our core. What I mean is, a couple of years ago when I had my big epiphany, I realized that I needed to find peace no matter what my past was. I have 4 children, and all of them are struggling with really important things, really major things. And a lot of my happiness has been, in the past, was based on their success and their performance. And I realized that I'm my own person. I'm a mom, of course, and I'll always love them. Yet, what about me? And where do I stand in all of this? And so I've had to take a really, really close look at myself and forgive myself and give grace and move forward and be present. Absolutely, I have to be present. I was living too much in the past and too much in the future, and I was missing out on key things. And this past year literally has forced me, and I believe it's forced many people to look deep inside. And we all have choices. We can choose to make the best of something, or to dig a hole and pretend that we're comfortable. And grace is the biggest thing that comes to mind, because we're human. We are in this human existence, and we have, no matter what is happening on around us, we can have peace. We can. And I have, as far as helping people, I have a wonderful podcast of my own. It's called Triumph After Trauma, and it's very uplifting. I've only interviewed women so far, and they have gone through many difficult things, and they are inspirations. And the reason is because they had to stop, just like Heather said, Emma said, they stopped and they realized, what do I want? What's important to me? Who am I? What makes me happy? Why am I here? What am I going to do with my life? And that direction has given them peace, and it's given them grace. It's helped them to say no to the labels and take hold of their own identity and their own purpose and their own drive for happiness.
I love it, Lynanne. Thank you so much. Where can everyone find out more about you? So the podcast is called Triumph Through Trauma.
Triumph After Trauma. It's on iTunes.
Awesome. And where else can we find you?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Lynanne Cottle. And then also my website is thesexymama.com.
We're not going to forget that one. I love it. You know, something that you're making me think a little bit about, and all of you amazing women just spurring my mind and inspiring me to think about things in different ways. For me, happiness has been about the moment where I realized I was making a feeling mean something. And so when I caught myself there and really became a master observer of my feelings and my thoughts, I could always pause and ask myself those questions, getting back to what Heather was saying about curiosity, right? And like, do you really think that? You know, and so journaling does that for me too. I'll write it out and I'll look at those words and be like, whoa, okay. And that gives us choices to be aware like that, and to make a different choice that's more aligned feels a little bit better is just a little tiny step toward that happiness. So I think that's what I would offer you listeners, is just understand what you're making the feelings mean. And maybe just instead of making them mean anything extra, go to a neutral place with your breath and let that moment be okay without any extra meaning. And that's a start, right? I have made this little list here on my notepad. We had honor the emotion by feeling it. Emma talked about that. And then move to curiosity, and Heather talked about that. And then, shower yourself with grace. I loved the order of how you all talked about those things, right? That was so perfect. Thank you so much. And ladies, you're amazing. Seriously. I hope that everybody listening will come take the extra step today, go down into the show notes, click on a website, learn more, even more about these amazing women. Thank you all so much for what you do in the world and for being here to share it with us today.
Thank you.
Very much.
So viewers, this amazing book is coming February 11th, 2021. And so if you're listening to this before that date, you can actually join us on the Circles of Inspiration page on Facebook, Miss Anna Pereira's page, for a little live stream book launch party. We're going to do giveaways and all kinds of fun things that day. And if you're listening after the 11th, well, that means the book is available. And so you'll find that link down there too. All of the information you need about all of these amazing authors. And so you guys, the way that I love to close out a show is with a big, juicy question. So here it is. What if there's something you haven't learned yet about happiness that could change everything? Right? There are just a few of those somethings in this book, everybody. So time to be brave. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Love what you heard today. Don't forget to drop down and hit that subscribe button, you guys, and then join me over at bravehealer.com for just a little bit more healing badassery. Have a great one.